Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today we're going to talk about how much will you gain and keep with steroid use. But before we get into that, I have to reiterate I'm not a doctor. Anything I say in these videos is for your entertainment purposes only. What you do with this information is completely and utterly up to you, and I am not advising nor condoning you to use any of the things that we discuss in any way, shape, or form. So, this is a topic that I really have to discuss. That's why we're doing this video. Every single day, probably 10, 15 times a day at least, because I get hundreds of questions a day, sometimes thousands. It's always brought up. How much will I gain? How much will I keep? What are my gains going to be? Etc., etc., etc. And I get it. I understand that people are curious. People want to know. People want to know what their strength they're going to gain, what size they're going to gain. But look, there is no humanly way, aside from me being a psychic or anybody else being a psychic, and unfortunately I don't carry that power. I wish I did, and I don't know anybody that really does, aside from people you see on TV claiming they do. But look, there's no way I can answer that question. Every single individual person, circumstance, scenario is different. I can tell you through each compound what you can possibly expect to gain or what users report they gain. But look, there's so many things that go into this. First of all, your diet dictates everything. You can take everything under the sun, but if your diet is off in any way, shape, or form, whether it's to coincide with your goals, whether it's inconsistencies, whether it's you drinking on the weekends, things of that nature, or whatever else people do, there's so many different factors that play into this. So if I sit here and tell you, yeah, you take D-ball, you're going to gain 15, 20 pounds, and you don't because you have bunk product, because your diet is off, because you're partying, because you're not taking it serious, because you got injured, because you got sick, well, all of a sudden, Gemelli's told me this, and that's not true, da-da-da-da-da. Because there's no way to accurately answer that. Also, with what you're going to keep, I have no idea. I do know that there are certain steroids that are much easier to attempt to keep gains from than others. Like, for example, D-ball. Well, D-ball, yes, you have the opportunity to gain a ton of weight, but we all know that it converts to estrogen at an extremely high rate, and a lot of that's going to be water weight, and you're not going to keep a lot of that. To what extent, I don't know. Some people will tell you they've been able to keep half their gains. Some people might even tell you 3/4. Some people will tell you they didn't keep any. And also, your post-cycle therapy plays a huge role in that. If you're not running post-cycle right, thoroughly, if you're skimping on it, if you're not eating right during it, if you're not training right during it, well, guess what? Your recovery is going to take a lot longer, and you're not going to keep nearly as much as what you possibly could. Not to mention, I don't know how you're going to train when you're off cycle. I don't know how you're going to eat. I don't know how your lifestyle is going to change. So there's no way that I can tell you how much you're going to gain or keep. Strength is really hard to tell you how much. I can tell you that certain compounds, like an anadrol, for example, a tren, they're going to give you a ton of strength. But I don't know how much. I can't tell you that your bench press is going to go. Like, I will get questions. Well, do you think my bench press can go up 50 pounds? Well, I don't know. I mean, sure, it's possible. I've seen people, I've done it myself. But then again, the way that I lift, I lift in more for endurance purposes. So I'm doing, higher reps with lower weight. So the room for me to gain more is probably easier than somebody that's already reached their max potential on what they're going to lift. So, there's a difference there too. And people train different. People do so many different things. What I can tell you, if you ask me, this compound does have the capability of doing this, this, and this. But there is no way on the planet Earth that I can tell you exactly what you're going to gain. And keeping is even worse of a question to answer. But if you want to say, well, what gives me a better chance of keeping my gains? Well, I can tell you something, like a DHT, like a Primobolan, like an Anavar, like a Winstrol. But then again, Winstrol for muscle hardening, well, it's going to be hard to keep that sort of muscle hardening once you get off of it. Same with Masteron. Let's say you gain, 5-6 pounds with Winstrol, which is definitely possible. Well, that's going to be a lot easier to keep than your 15 to 20 pounds of D-ball or Anadrol, for instance, where you're gaining a ton of weight, but there could be some, dirtier portions of that, whether it be water, extra fat, etc. So these are things that come into play. But I don't like to come off like I'm being a jerk when I answer this question, but when I say I can't answer it and I tell people that, some people get like upset with me about it, and it's like, well, I mean, I guess I could tell you, you know, what you want to hear, but that's not really what I do. I don't tell people what they want to hear. I tell you what you need to hear, and what you need to hear is that it's not really the best question in the world, okay, if you expect a really articulate and exact answer. But, like I said, feel free to say, hey, Dylan, what can I expect from T-ball, or what can I expect from this cycle? But please don't expect me to tell you right on the money, right on the dot, what you're going to gain, what you're going to keep, because nobody can do that. Literally, nobody can do that. If they do tell you that, then they're lying to you, okay? And trying to sound smarter than they are. But, like I said, you take a steroid that converts to estrogen at an extremely high rate or has a ton of side effects, it's going to be a lot more difficult to keep gains from that than it is something more mild. On the other hand, something more mild is likely not going to give you as much gain from it. So it all factors out and plays out. Maybe you gain 20 pounds of D-ball, only keep 10 of it, but you still gain more than you do running Winstrol, gaining 5 pounds and keeping 3 or 4. You see what I'm saying, how the underlying differences are here? So you have to factor that in as well. Really, it's trial and error to see how your body responds, how you handle certain compounds, and then you learning how to control side effects, control dosing, because abusive dosing is going to bring on a lot more side effects. It's going to make it a lot more difficult to recover. And guess what? It's going to make it a lot more difficult to keep any sort of gains that you make. And like I said, your diet and your overall way you behave in life is going to affect, and stressors in life. If you're having a stressful time at work, for example, well, I don't know if you're having a stressful time at home, if something's going on in your life, well, guess what? Then that's going to make it a lot more difficult to gain more and keep more. So, life factors play into all of this, none of which I can predict, nor can anybody else, unless we are psychic. So you have to be understanding of this and mentally know that each cycle can bring on something different on so many different levels and so many different factors. Age, everything. Overuse, overtraining. There's so many different things that play into this. So feel free to ask me what you can expect, but please don't expect me to be able to tell you how much you're going to gain, how much you're going to keep. I just want to make it so that, because I get this question so often, and I want to make it very clear to everybody, why I answer it the way I do, when I do, and how I do. So, Dylan Gemelli, signing off.